Jay Kiel, founder and director of 10 for 10.
So, what inspired you to create 10 for 10?
Yeah, I was about 5 years ago, I was working with middle school and high school youth, and it was in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and all of the youth were feeling really isolated and alone, and um, they started to open up with me about how they were feeling about life and struggling with mental health and feeling really alone in the middle of all of that. And so we started to meet outdoors and find safe ways to meet, and we would walk or run together as a group of us and talk about life. And it all kind of culminated in an event where one of the youth was with their dad and called me as they were on their way to a mental health facility because things had just were not going well, and they knew they needed help, and they had the support of their parents. And alongside their parents, they called me so I could be part of their support system. And as they came home, we continued to meet, and I was telling them, one step at a time, what are ways you can challenge yourself, take one step at a time, and I'll support you along the way. And I said, it's really important to talk about this and be open and open to receive help. And their response to me was, I love that. What are you going to do for yourself? What are you going to do to challenge yourself and continue to challenge others to make a difference? And 10 for 10 was basically born that day of, okay, well, part of my mental health journey and healing is running. And so I said, okay, I'm going to run 10 miles a day at the beginning of October. And she goes, well, do it for 10 days. And that's how it all began. And said, well, let's just make a difference through raising some awareness, knowing we can't make a difference for everybody, but we might be able to raise awareness and make a difference for somebody. And so, yeah, there's a lot to it, but that's kind of how it started at the core of it all.
How's it going?
It's going well. We this year, in fact, right now as we meet today, I'm about an hour ago, I finished run 7 of this year, and it's our 5th year. And so it is going well. We are continuing in growing in partnerships and collaborations with places around the area. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin area, and so we are um, the gym that I go to has kind of rallied around me to support and also open up and talk about real life and bring it to their families and communities and work and things like that. And so this year we're talking about knowing your worth and different ways of knowing your worth each day. We bring up a different topic, and yeah, it's going well. And for me, I think when we're talking about mental health and raising awareness, one of the most tricky things is how do you measure success?
Yeah.
Because if I set some lofty goal or perfection for success, then I'm not doing anything to raise awareness for mental health. I'm just you know playing a part of kind of the myths around it. So for me, I think how it's going is that I get asked if I'm doing it again. If someone asks me, "Hey, are is 10 for 10 happening again in October?" I really, I really got something out of those videos or that theme or that affirmation or whatever it was. For me, that's kind of the success, if you will, of we can't make. I tend to think of the Mother Teresa quote. I can't make a great difference, but I can make small differences with great love. And I think for me, that's kind of the driving factor of uh, if it changes something for somebody, then it's worth it and it's going well. And so so far this year, I would say it is been able to have some really real and open conversations with folks, um, and then on the other side, with the running part to raise awareness, that's I'm getting them done. So, uh, that's going well too.
Have you seen younger people be more open with talking about their feelings?
Yeah, I think there is a shift um, happening. I think, even at the core of how 10 for 10 started, as I shared with you earlier with the COVID pandemic and such, I think we're still gonna see for years to come exactly what the effects of the isolation of that was. We were all doing what we had to do to be safe, and I think we're gonna see specifically in the youth what that means when you're in that stage of your life where um, relationships are always important for humans, right? But there's really important at that age, and so I think the one benefit, the silver lining of all of this is that we're realizing the importance of relationships aren't just important because we're having fun, we're hanging out, we're watching
Yeah.
movies. Relationships are important because we're supporting each other, we're learning empathy alongside and with and for each other. Where we have somebody that we can process our feelings with that are going through it too. Teenagers are going to understand things teenagers are going to and talk about mom and dad this or whatever, right? And we just think of that, if you look back when you were a teenager, or I look back when I am or was a teenager, we think like, oh yeah, we were just like, oh, mom and dad, ugh. But at the end of the day, we were actually learning like how to be empathetic with each other, how to like find perspective, how to call each other out and be like, actually they were just making sure we were safe or whatever it was. And so I think um what I've seen is there is growing importance from youth to talk about their feelings, to stand up against things that would tell them not to be themselves, not to live into who they are. And so for me, if I can be an adult voice to point to that, not just for youth, but for everybody, but if I can be a voice to point to that or empower them to continue to believe in that hunch, it's worth it.
I was looking at your Facebook page, and you had all these great comments and thoughts with knowing your worth. Where did you come up with these?
Yeah, I, for me, this is like one of the harder questions because it just kind of comes up,
Yeah.
and um, I I tend to be there's two things that happen. One is part of, or at least my commitment as Jay, the person for 10 for 10 is the 10 miles of running each day, and it's in those runs in the training where I can just kind of let my mind run loose and uh, things just kind of come up. The other side of that is I'm I also have my own stuff that I work through. I've ADHD. I have to be conscious of how how I process the world around me. One thing that means is sometimes I'll wake up at like 2 a.m. and just all of a sudden have all these ideas, and I just write them down and come back to them in the morning. And Know Your Worth came out of a combo of a run into waking up the next morning early and um, being being inspired to see where that would go. Um, it also happens in a lot of conversations with my spouse and others around of, hey, I was thinking about Know Your Worth, and they're like, well, what if you could remind folks or remind yourself to be worthy of this or that. And just, yeah, throughout months, just slowly having those conversations and um, listening, learning, leaning on others. I spent a lot of time reading articles from different psychology sites and universities and things like that.
What do you do to help your own mental health?
Yeah, well, I've mentioned in passing a couple times here, but getting outside, running,
Yeah.
being in nature is really, really important for me and my mental health. One of the things for me in my journey is I get really anxious, and so to be able to move my muscles, move my body, and just kind of let it go that way versus up into my head, so to speak, is helpful. Uh, for me, I'm all about relationships, so I have close friends that I can lean on, close friends that have opened that door to me to be the call. And when they ask, "How are you doing?" they actually want the answer. And so to trust that, to lean into that. Um, I'd say I'm currently in the process of looking for a therapist myself to to know, if I'm going to go out and publicly say it's okay to get help, then to live that. And I will admit openly, that is and was a really big step for me. I tend to be the type of person of like I kind of a perfectionist. If my wife and close friends were here with me, they would tell me not to say the word kind of. But I am a perfectionist, and I want to be able to, do all the things and help all the people. And so that is a struggle, but something I know that's important is to, if I'm going to say it's okay to get help, then proactively do it myself. And so that's an active thing for me. And I think that's what in my own journey helps me, inspires me to keep going in this too, right? If I tell others they're not alone, then, well, either am I, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, um, running, being active. I have two children, spending time with them, getting outside, listening to their giggles at the park. Just trying to take in the little things too, not always look for the big win all the time, so to speak. And take in life for what it is, and find some perspective. Yeah.
What are some of the things you've learned from your wife and kids?
Oh, that's a good one. My wife is a huge supporter of all of this, and has been influential. And I said, like, the themes come from just sitting on the couch, getting the kids to bed, sitting on the couch, and being like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about this?" Of course, as all humans, she has her own journey, and so, um, for me, honestly, the take the next step of, if you're going to tell others it's okay to get help, get it yourself. She's my biggest supporter and encourager, in that. And um, yeah, for my kids, both both of my kids have their various neurodivergencies. My daughter's on the autism spectrum, and I think the biggest thing I've learned from her is to enjoy the little things. Um, she looks outside and the sun is up, and she just yells, "It's morning!" and gets so excited. Um, I think to enjoy the little things, and not get too caught up in take life seriously, but not get too caught up in things that I can make bigger than what they need to be. Um, and then, yeah, for my son, um, we just got a puppy, and he
Oh,
is in
nice.
love with the puppy. He cares for it so deeply. And I think, just that, like, gentle caring heart, to slow down and um, see that, and see his love for you know nature and the world around him. Um, I learn a lot from him with that as well.
What would you say to anyone going through a tough time?
Um, Oh man, I think the first thing I'll say is, as much as it feels like it, you are not alone. There are people in your corner. There's people cheering for you. One of my favorite pictures I have saved on my phone. It was a sign in someone's yard from years ago, and it said in large letters, "You are loved," and then smaller letters below it, it said, "You may think it's strange that I don't even know you and I say I love you, but if we can spread hate and harm so easy, I can spread love." And then below it in big letters again, it said, "I love you." And I think that is so important to remember. Like, people can cheer you on, people can be on your side no matter what. And at the end of the day, you hold value and worth exactly for who you are. And it is courageous, brave, and scary to get help, but it's absolutely worth it. And I think a lot of times, we convince ourselves, whether we mean to or not, that if we get help or we admit where we're at, then we're showing weakness, or we're showing, something like that. But in reality, it's the largest, most courageous step we can take. And we don't have to do it all today. we don't have to make that call and obviously, right? Because I think what ends up happening is, well, I took a deep breath, I did the affirmation, and I still look in the mirror and don't like what I see, right? Or those types of conversations, and and to know that's okay. It's okay if baby steps, healing, growth, mental health, it's not linear. So yeah, I would say that you're not alone. You're enough right now, and it's courageous and brave to get help.
Yeah, and the thing that helps me, I live with bipolar disorder too, is
Yeah,
hearing other people's lived experiences more than tips and all that. So
yeah,
hopefully, telling my story helps other people and then more people get to share their story.
yeah. I think one of my childhood heroes and heroes still today is Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of Mr. Rogers is he's telling the story, right? And you see yourself in the story. And I think at the end of the day, that's what this all is all about. We tell our story, just like you said. If you tell your story, there's parts of it that you're like, "Ooh, did I just say that? Did I admit that?"
Right.
Then
Yeah.
someone else all of a sudden, messages you and says, "I thought I was the only one that felt that way," or, and I'm not. Like, thank you for sharing your story, and that's empowering to be able to be in that like type of community.
So, where do you want to see your mental health mission, say, in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, um, I would I would love to see us continue to uh, grow in just building awareness. For me, it's never been about like how many people can listen to me talk or anything like that, but
Yeah.
also I I 100% believe in this message and this mission, and at the core is actually exactly what you just said a minute ago. With if someone can hear my story
Yeah.
and someone can learn from it, or I can hear others' story, when we're going through it, you said it. That's more than sometimes that's more than the tips and all that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
and so for me, um, to grow in being able to tell stories or amplify others' stories, I think is where I'd want to go. How that looks, I'm still dreaming. This is this is honestly something that I do completely on the side. This is not my full-time job. This is something I just do because I really care about it.
Yeah.
And so to see where it could grow, I would love, I'm just saying it because it's a dream. I would love to be able to go to like schools or businesses,
Yeah.
organizations, and throughout the year and be able to, speak and give a presentation and open up space for folks to, safely and carefully within reasons and boundaries, share and be able to know it's okay to be vulnerable and talk as well. And so, yeah, how that looks, still, still thinking about it, but to go that direction and have other people's stories be amplified and involved, and continue to share uh, experiences and break the stigma and silence around mental health and illness. Yeah, where however that grows,
Yeah.
that's the goal.
Yeah. Have you seen the stigma of just talking about mental health lessening a little bit?
Um, I think in in my experience in my area, I see it lessening. Um, I will say that I've talked to both students and professors and leaders in
Yeah.
like universities, and throughout the past, uh, I would say 5 to 6 years, there has been a lot more like syllabus, the syllabi that professors will give out. Students are seeing more spots where there's at least a paragraph in of like what student services are available, or to reach out to the professor if this is triggering something, things like that. And so I think there is a lessening of the stigma. I believe that people are talking more. Um, and I think, one of the things to keep in mind, I think it's easy to see stigma and say, okay, that's the silencing. But another part of the stigma is the unintentional, like, one-upping of each other, right? And so I think as we talk more, that's something to keep in mind and remind ourselves of is, for me, I didn't share my story for years because I convinced myself, well, I didn't go through it that way, so it must not actually, be a mental health thing, or oh, maybe I wasn't dealing with depression because I just heard that story, or whatever it is, or when I look in the mirror, I see this, so maybe it's not the same way, or however that works. And so I think it's important remembering that side of the stigma too, that we're not competing with each other, we're
Yeah.
supporting each other. Yeah.
How can people follow your journey?
Yeah, so we have our website and social media, both Instagram and Facebook right now, and all the tags are 10 for 10 WI, and then on social media it's 10 for 10 dot WI. And that's because we're based in Wisconsin at the moment, and that was originally started for that's the tag that was available on Instagram. So, um, yeah, so you can follow along on there, and then uh, I'm our website has various resources and then links to the other ways to stay in touch and reach out and learn more.